welcome to a special online edition of Rock Solid Wrestling, where we're just talking about wrestling. We're going to call this Talk Solid Wrestling, and I'm here with Mark Tornado. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, man.
And we are getting ready for GraphicCon, June 9th at the Sudbury Community Arena, brought to you by the Greater Sudbury Public Library. And the big thing in my life right now is that weekend afternoon wrestling is back, thanks to Rock Solid Wrestling and Eastlink TV. So tell me, why were you so excited? And when we started putting this back together, why were you so excited about putting wrestling back on afternoons, on the weekends?
Well, for me, that's how I grew up. You know, it was Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, wrestling's on, everything stops. You put the tools down, you put the broom down, and you sit down with your family and you watch pro wrestling. And that's how I grew up.
For me, I grew up, you used to watch cartoons, Garfield, early in the morning, 12 o'clock, WWF Superstars comes on, 1 o'clock, Maple Leaf Wrestling comes on CHCH, and that's how I fell in love with the sport. And I think that's something, I often wonder, how do little kids get into it? I go to shows and I see little kids with their John Cena clothes and stuff, but I wonder, how did they get there? Because primetime TV is not necessarily geared towards kids anymore.
I guess you got to factor in the internet as well, and DVRs, so everything's available at all times. The thing about the Saturday afternoon aspect that I liked about it was the friendliness of the show. The programming was more friendly to watch, if that makes sense.
You weren't seeing blood, you weren't seeing chairs as much. You know, if
Nope.
there was something like that, it would get censored. I remember when Marty Jannetty hit Sensational Sherry with the mirror and they'd censored. I'm like, what happened? I was freaking out. I was asking my dad. I've never seen something like this.
Yeah, it's a good example. That's a great example. Also, the wrestling historically in Northern Ontario was out of a company in Montreal owned by Gino Brito called International Wrestling, and it was the 2 o'clock in the afternoon slot. And you know, Sudbury Arena was packed every time they came to town.
Similar to that is when I grew up, all I knew was WWF. And like I grew up watching my mom's favorite wrestler, Ricky Steamboat, and Macho Man Randy Savage, and all those guys. And then one day on TSN, I saw WCW for the first time. I'm like, oh, there's other kinds of wrestling. And I kind of feel like that with you. I think, you know, most people wouldn't know that there are other companies out there, especially in their own hometown.
That's true. And about WCW too was Saturday night, 2 hours of wrestling. I couldn't believe it the first time I saw WCW Saturday night. And you had matchups. You know, you never saw the Hulk Hogan's on that show, but you had like the Armstrong brothers were all there. Dean Malenko would wrestle on that. So like you had the best wrestlers, not necessarily the best names. You know what I mean? So WCW Saturday Night's another one that's a classic as well. Yeah,
when I first started watching, I remember I loved Brian Pillman and Steve Austin was there. The Great Muta was on sometimes if you got lucky. So weekend afternoon wrestling, I'm so happy to have it back on. Thanks to Rock Solid Wrestling and Eastlink putting that together. And I can't wait to see you guys. Tell us what you think about weekend afternoon wrestling. This June 9th at GraphicCon, you can tell Mark, you can talk to me, but you can also talk to the awesome Rock Solid Wrestling roster. That's June 9th, GraphicCon at the Sudbury Community Arena. Check us out there.
Thanks for watching this video. Eastlink TV is the home of community content. Make sure you don't miss any of it by clicking subscribe here.